Okay, you guys, Ugly Matte is out. You know what that means. It's time to get to some creative work. Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today's video, we are kicking off a mini canvas project number 2. Quick backstory. If you remember last year, I participated in a mini art show, a little juried show. It was a little 4x4 inch, so a lot smaller than this, canvas, and basically you could do whatever you wanted on it. And I filmed that process. So you can actually look back here on the YouTube channel. I'll put a link down below to that video if you want to watch me work on that mini canvas from start to finish. I did submit it to the show. It got selected. They didn't have any awards for that particular show, but at the end of it, the pieces were all exchanged with other people in the show. So you got someone's piece like at random. I think I had gotten like maybe a child's piece or something like that. It was just a random, like it just had like a smudge of paint on it and that was it. Otherwise, I think I probably would have updated you guys in a vlog. But funny enough, the person who got my little canvas, I found out months later, ended up being someone who's actually in my current weekly art club that I'm in, my in-person art club that I'm in, which is so funny. So it was just a weird thing of like how worlds collide. It was just really funny. And she was like, oh my God, she recognized my work, or her daughter did, saw some of my Creative Juices stickers and was like, Mom, you have her painting. Your painting is hanging in our house. And so it turned out she's who got my little canvas. So it has moved on to a lovely home and is enjoyed by, you know, its owner, which is really great. But here we are, year 2. They have brought back the mini art show yet again. A little bit of change this year though. Number 1 is that the canvas is larger. We are working on a 6x6 sized canvas, which I'm excited about. I'm happy to have a little bit more space. There's no real rules, obviously, just that it has to be, you know, appropriate. The show is installed in the library, so, you know, I have to maybe reel it back a little bit from maybe my normal visual things that I like to do. But I've come up with an idea, so I'm excited to share that with you here. The other thing with this show is that it is juried yet again, so your piece does need to be selected to get in. And then there's actually going to be awards. So there will be there'll be a grand prize, first, second, third within each age group. And then at the end of the show, there will not be a swap or exchange. So I will be getting my original piece back, which, to be honest with you, I'm happy about, especially considering I did another show that was also exhibited in that library, but it was like a citywide, well, this is citywide too, but like it was a bigger like art show with a specific sort of theme. After winning that and then getting my piece back, it was nice to have something to put up into my studio and that, you know, I could sell or show in something else later on down the line. But yeah, I'm excited. I decided to go for it again this year. I just went and picked up my little canvas today. You've probably already seen me talk about this and show you some of the sketches in a previous studio vlog. But now I'm going to be taking you through the process. And I thought that I would just do a chatty overhead just to get this going because I've already got some ideas underway. So let's talk about that. So knowing that it's going to be in a library and because there wasn't a specific theme, I decided to kind of lean into the idea of, you know, books, either being imagery with books or where is it? Oh, it's farther back, that's why. So let me show you what I have whipped up thus far. The first thing that I did was I literally just traced the canvas directly into my off-camera crinkle sketchbook so that I could just get the measurements of it and start to sketch within that. So it restricted my space that I was working in. So that helped a lot. And in my mind, I thought that I wanted to do some sort of like wiggly creature, either an octopus. My first thought was actually a snake, but I started doodling the octopus first. And so that just is what came about. But I like the idea of something like winding or something filling up the space and then having books either coming out of it or books wrapped up in between it. I wasn't quite sure. But then I started to do this body of the octopus and I just kept going and I really liked the direction of it and the octopus was born here. So I didn't even really need to do any further sketches, even though I had planned on doing a few different kind of options and then narrowing things down. But I'm so happy with the way this little guy turned out that is, I believe, what I'm going to be moving forward with. So I have my really rough sketch here, which actually I say rough sketch, but I have cleaned it up just a tad here. And what I want to do is that the octopus and the sort of things that he's like attached to, the things that are attached to him, is going to be one piece. And then all of these little extra bits, and I'll probably make some more books and book pages and stuff, will be floating elements kind of within it. And my thought is that I'm going to illustrate him on one substrate, either on watercolor paper or on book paper or something fun. I'll figure out whatever that substrate's going to be. And then I will put him onto a mixed media background. So I want to create that mixed media background, illustrate him, cut out all of this little negative space with an X-Acto knife so that that negative space, you know, whatever my background is, peeks through a little bit. And then all of these will be done on the same substrate that I use for my octopus, but I will cut them out individually so that I can kind of come back and collage them in and around kind of my main central illustration here. As I was doodling it, I kind of just roughly titled it, As It Turns Out, the Octopus is an Avid Reader. I thought that was kind of funny. I also thought about saying like the octopus has a lot of late fees, or safe to say the octopus has a lot of books overdue. I don't know. I'm playing with the title. I'll jot some more ideas down. With this sketched out, what I'm going to do next is come in and lighten all my lines down and create my hard line contour, which I will do with some sort of pen. I've been super into these Unipin fine line pens. That's probably what I'll end up using. So I will lighten up my lines with a kneaded eraser, outline this with a black pen, and then that's basically ready to be transferred onto whatever thing I'm going to illustrate that on. But I'll do that after I glue down and collage my mixed media background. So for this, I've already pulled some ephemera for this. And I pulled a bunch of different blues that I thought would be fun because obviously I want it to look like as though he's in a little tank, like he's just water background. Maybe not exactly like a tank, but like he's in water. So I've just pulled some blues and stuff out of my ephemera bin, and we'll see what of this I end up using into the background. And then I also pulled some random book pages because you know what? I did this last year and I really liked the look of it. Actually, last year the entire thing was covered in book pages. But I thought it might be fun to do the sides of it and the back in the book paper. So this will all be book, and then we'll have blue so that even on the sides of it, if you're kind of walking around to the side, you're getting book pages. I think that's what I want to do rather than just having blue all the way around it. Although, I don't know, that also looks kind of fun. I mean, I like the idea of book pages because it's, again, it's in a library. And I think the contrast of the blue happening and then the book pages on the side will be kind of fun. Yeah, I still think that's how I'm leaning. So blue on the front, book pages along the edges. And then as that's drying, I will then come back over here and get this guy outlined so that he's ready to be transferred onto whatever my substrate is going to be. I do know he's going to be very colorful. I want to do like pinks and oranges, especially knowing that I have a cool background. I really want him to pop with some fun color, and even just having the books. The books I'm either going to do all in the same color or do different colors. I'm not sure. But the octopus is definitely going to be one of the first things that I kind of pin down color-wise. That is where we're at. Here we go. Year 2 of the mini canvas challenge or mini canvas art show. Let's go ahead and get started. Hello, voiceover bun, coming in hot, coming in to give you some insight, I guess, or just talk you through what it is that I'm going to be working on for the rest of the video here. Obviously, I'm continuing with my small canvas, but to begin, I was kind of bouncing between two different things, working on getting my background sort of glued down, which definitely, it took me a while. The decision to put the book paper along the edges, and then I did add it to the back, added quite a bit of time to this whole process because I obviously had to wait for a dry time. You know, maneuvering the little canvas around as things were drying was kind of a pain in the butt. So it was a lot of just like bouncing between this and my illustration at the same time. So you'll see me kind of bounce between the two a little bit, but it's a good way to sort of make use of that dry time. Looking back, I kind of wish I had just done a glue stick to glue this sort of down. Or maybe I should have primed my canvas a little bit. I didn't do that because I just kind of figured, well, I'm covering it over with paper anyways, it doesn't really matter. But I do wonder if I had maybe primed it or just even done a little bit of a coat of paint or something, if my gel medium would have stuck a little bit better to that. Maybe not, I don't know. I also just could have used a glue stick, to be honest. I really didn't need to do a whole lot of gel because as you can see the size of this illustration, which I had really framed within the size of that canvas in my sketchbook, this is what is going to dominate the entire space. Like the amount of background that was actually going to be peeking through was not a whole lot. So I did spend time sort of layering things in, but you'll see that beyond that, I didn't really add a whole lot of other media into my background, minus some oil pastel. And then I think at the very, very end coming in with some paint pens, but that was once I got everything in, and it was really just to kind of help fill in sort of negative space here and there. It's funny looking at that little coffee cup in my illustration now, because I had these plans of like cutting out those individual sort of little like coffee drops and having them sort of like spilling into different places or kind of in between the books or whatever. And I feel like it actually kind of ended up taking away from things. So I ended up not including those in the final piece, but the little coffee cup survived. He's in there because it was attached to a tentacle, so there was no removing it. But the coffee splashes were later removed. Here I am applying those book pages. The book paper went on nicely with the gel medium without things prepped. So maybe it was just my glossy magazine images were fighting me a little bit on the front side. Again, could have used a glue stick to get it down and then maybe a little bit of gel on top. But the reason why I'm kind of regretting the gel is that I really didn't, like I said, I didn't end up putting a lot of stuff on top of it. The reason you use gel, and I get this question a lot, the reason why you use gel in mixed media is to remove that glossiness. Not really remove the glossiness, but to create a ground for other media to grab onto when you have a glossy layer like magazine images. That's where that comes in handy. So sometimes if you're going to do that, it's easy to just use it as the under sort of adhesive layer at the same time, but things can get finicky and there is a certain way to sort of glue things down in segments or in pieces. But yeah, enough about my background. I kept it pretty simple, pretty straightforward. A little bit of paint, a little bit of oil pastel, and paint pen later on. But I really tried to stick with the blue because as you could see there, I was doing some swatches of what my octopus color was going to be. And I wanted it to be really colorful and bright and have more sort of warmer tones so that I could really pop against that sort of blue background. And what I'm doing here, by the way, is I'm transferring my design onto some watercolor paper, which is so funny. It's, you know, I'm so used to illustrating in books and in sketchbooks that even when I do go to illustrate on just a loose substrate, it feels so strange to me to just be on paper. I always feel a little bit better knowing that I'm going to end up cutting it out, which is obviously what I end up doing. But just like the process of like drawing and illustrating on just loose paper is so weird to me. By the way, I had a massive spill of this blue ink. It went all over the place. It was all over my hand. It's like stained one of my like fingernails. Like it just went everywhere. I don't know what happened. It like got stuck in the little dropper and I had a bit of a blue paint explosion going on there. This blue paint here that I'm using, which was part of that random like paint clean out that ended up being an art journal spread. So I'm happy, you know, kind of happy and proud of myself that I have been using a lot of those, I put new in quotations. It's not new paint, but it's paint that I sort of rummaged through and cleared out. You guys can go back and watch that video here on the channel. It's the art journal with me paint clean out to journal spread sort of thing. Nice long video that one is. But anyways, coming back to my little octopus here, I had so much fun illustrating this and I've been having a blast with gouache and specifically the Shinhan hybrid gouache paints. It's both a gouache and a watercolor all into one. It takes a bit of getting used to, I will admit. I did an unboxing and swatching and illustration of it on my Patreon channel, on my Patreon. But since kind of unboxing and playing with them, I've been using them a lot and I absolutely love them. It's such a fun medium to experiment and play with, but it really, like when they say hybrid paint, it truly is a hybrid. And you can see it here with that bright green, how it looks more like a watercolor, but then those pinks, I applied them more opaque like a gouache. And it's just crazy how just a change in your water, a change in the type of brush you're using can completely change the way that that paint applies. It's really wild. It's also been interesting just learning to figure out what I can mix that paint with. Maybe not like directly mix it in the pan, but mix it with or alongside other mediums directly on my substrate. So whether that's other watercolor or other gouache. It's been a lot of fun to experiment and play with. But those Shinhan paints, I mean, just look at my octopus here. They are so pigmented, so vivid, so bright, and they're just so much fun. And let me tell you, you get a lot of paint for your buck there. I did have to order those paints through Jackson's Art Supply, so not here in the US. So the shipping does kind of get you a little bit, but my goodness, totally worth it, because you get a 20 milliliter tube. It's a lot. It's a lot of paint, and it goes a long way, and it reconstitutes really, really well. So it's been a really fun addition putting those paints into my watercolor tin. I've been using them like crazy. And as you can see, they were perfect for this, which is kind of the vibe that I wanted, was something really vibrant, really playful, because it fits the vibe of the show. You know, it's a little community art show, and you know, it ends up being a real mix of people that submit to it. I wouldn't say that it's, you know, necessarily professionals submitting to the show, but it's just a real mix of things. So I knew just going in, I wanted something kind of thematic, something really fun and playful, appropriate for all ages, you know, which you can't always say that about my artwork all the time. This is a very like PG friendly, oh, this is rated G, let's be honest. This is a very family friendly little piece of artwork here. But I knew that going in. And it's funny, I cranked this out, I'd say in about 3 days. And that's not working on it like constantly. Like I was working on it while doing other things. Probably if I sat down start to finish and worked on it, I probably could have done it in a day, especially if I wasn't filming it. If I wasn't filming it, I definitely could have cranked it out a lot faster. But I, you know, once the idea hit and I had that sketch of, you know, what I wanted it to look like, it all just came together really, really quickly. I'm grateful for the larger canvas size this year. I think it allowed me to be a little bit more playful with the illustration. Last year, being on the 4" by 4" size really restricts you as far as what it is that you can do. You know, it'd be a lot more difficult to sort of create this scene, which I have, you know, created here. It really does feel like a little scene. It also allowed me to be a lot more playful with the placement of all the elements, which you'll see in just a moment here. Side note, I love cutting stuff out like this. It brings me so much joy. I do it with a lot of things, with my Oracle project, which I need to get back into working on, my tarot project, any sort of weird illustrations. I love cutting things out like this, like really, really almost like die cutting my own artwork. It brings me so much joy. And I can't tell you how fun it was to see this, you know, all the pieces cut out and then starting to build it onto my background like this was just so fun. And I'm actually gluing it at this point. So I'm just using a glue stick, and I did end up using like a super, super heavy duty tacky, like a double-sided tape as well, just to reinforce certain areas where I had things overlapping, and more specifically where I had things sort of going off the canvas. So kind of coming back to that idea of there being like a scene happening, I really went a playful route here and decided to have things sort of floating off the sides of the canvas. You'll see that first sort of arrangement, I kind of had things all over the place, but then I found, I think compositionally, I liked the idea of it sort of crawling up one direction. It just kind of gave it the right visual weight that I wanted. And then with the negative space, I was able to just come in with a little paint pen and add some bubbles in and call it a day. But I really felt like having it go up that one direction, like even just looking at it now, I really think it gives it a lot of movement that it wouldn't have had otherwise. So I'm really happy with how it turned out. It has been selected for the show. I can tell you that. I don't know if I've won anything or not yet, but I do believe they're going to be using my artwork as the promotional image for the show, which is kind of exciting. And apparently I was also the first person to turn the artwork in. Again, I cranked this thing out so fast, but you know, when inspiration and creativity strikes, sometimes you just got to run with that feeling and bring it all to life. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.